No body was found. No cameras were allowed inside the courtroom. But there were videos, private jets, and women who said they were held captive in the lavish world of Sean "Diddy" Combs. The man who once stood at the pinnacle of American hip-hop power walked out of federal court with 2 criminal convictions on his record. If you want to follow every twist and turn of this case and discover more shocking true crime stories, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. This is the story of how an entertainment empire built on success and glamour became the backdrop for one of the most disturbing federal cases in recent memory. It is a story about power allegations that shattered reputations and a legal battle that captivated the world. But before we dive into the allegations and the courtroom drama, we need to understand who Sean "Diddy" Combs really was and how he built an empire that seemed untouchable. Sean John Combs was born on November 4, 1969, in Harlem, New York. He grew up in Mount Vernon and attended Howard University before dropping out to pursue a career in music. By the early 1990s, he had founded Bad Boy Records, a label that would transform hip-hop into a billion-dollar industry. Under his leadership, Bad Boy Records launched the careers of artists like the notorious B.I.G. Faith Evans and Mace. Combs himself performed under various stage names, including Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, and simply Diddy. He won 3 Grammy Awards and sold millions of records worldwide. But his influence extended far beyond music. Combs built a business empire that included the Sean John clothing line, partnerships with Ciroc Vodka, and investments in media companies. He appeared on Forbes lists of the wealthiest hip-hop artists year after year. His annual net worth was estimated to exceed hundreds of millions of dollars. He hosted legendary parties attended by A-list celebrities, politicians, and business moguls. To the public, Sean Combs was the embodiment of the American dream, a self-made mogul who turned talent and hustle into generational wealth. Yet behind the glittering facade, cracks were beginning to show. People who worked with him whispered about his temper and controlling behavior. Former associates mentioned incidents that seemed troubling, but were never fully investigated. For years, these stories remained in the shadows, dismissed as industry gossip or the price of working with a demanding perfectionist. Then in November 2023, everything changed. Cassie Ventura, a singer and model who had dated Combs for over a decade, filed a civil lawsuit in federal court in New York. The complaint contained allegations that stunned the entertainment industry. Ventura claimed that during their relationship, which lasted from approximately 2007 to 2018, Combs subjected her to repeated acts of physical violence, sexual abuse, and psychological control. She alleged that he raped her, beat her, and forced her to participate in sexual acts with male escorts while he watched and recorded the encounters. These events, she claimed, occurred in luxury hotels and private residences across the country. The lawsuit detailed specific incidents with dates and locations. Ventura described being given drugs and alcohol and being coerced into situations where she felt she had no choice but to comply. She stated that Combs used his wealth and connections to control her career and isolate her from friends and family. According to the filing, he threatened to ruin her professionally if she ever spoke out about what happened. The allegations painted a portrait of a relationship defined not by romance, but by domination and fear. Initially, public reaction was divided. Combs denied all allegations through his attorney, calling them false and outrageous. Some people questioned why Ventura had waited so long to come forward. Others pointed out that survivors of abuse often remain silent for years due to fear, shame, or the power imbalance between them and their abusers. The lawsuit was settled within 24 hours for an undisclosed amount, which some interpreted as an admission of guilt, and others saw as a standard legal maneuver to avoid a prolonged court battle. But Cassie Ventura's lawsuit was only the beginning. In the months that followed, more women came forward with similar stories. They described a pattern of behavior that allegedly spanned decades. Some were aspiring artists who said Combs promised to help their careers. Others were employees or acquaintances who encountered him at parties or industry events. Their accounts shared disturbing similarities, including allegations of drugging, coercion, and violence. While these civil lawsuits were making headlines, federal investigators were quietly building a criminal case. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the FBI had been monitoring Combs for months. In March 2024, federal agents executed search warrants at two of his properties, a mansion in Miami, Florida, and a residence in Los Angeles, California. The raids were coordinated and simultaneous, suggesting that authorities were concerned about evidence being destroyed. During the searches, agents seized a staggering amount of material. According to court documents later filed by prosecutors, they recovered over 100 electronic devices, including cell phones, laptops, hard drives, and security camera footage. They also found more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and personal lubricant items that prosecutors would later argue were used in what they called freak-offs, orchestrated sexual performances involving women and male sex workers. Investigators also documented evidence of private jet travel records, hotel bookings, and financial transactions that suggested a coordinated operation to transport individuals across state lines for sexual purposes. The scale of the investigation was unprecedented for a case involving a celebrity of Combs' stature. Federal agents interviewed dozens of witnesses, including former employees, security personnel, hotel staff, and the women who had filed civil lawsuits. They obtained subpoenas for phone records, emails, and financial documents. They analyzed videos that allegedly showed Combs assaulting women. One video, which was later obtained and published by CNN in May 2024, showed Combs physically attacking Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway in 2016. The footage corroborated details from her lawsuit and provided visual evidence that contradicted Combs's initial denials. On September 16, 2024, Sean Combs was arrested at a hotel in Manhattan. He was charged in a federal indictment with 3 counts: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The indictment alleged that from at least 2008 through the present, Combs had led a criminal enterprise that used his business empire to carry out acts of violence, obstruction of justice, and sexual exploitation. Prosecutors described the freak-offs in detail. According to the indictment, these were elaborate sexual performances that Combs arranged and directed. He allegedly recruited women under false pretenses, often promising career opportunities or financial support. He then coerced them into participating in multi-day sexual encounters with male prostitutes, which he orchestrated, filmed, and sometimes participated in. The indictment stated that Combs provided drugs such as ketamine ecstasy and GHB to keep the victims compliant. Afterward, he and the victims would typically receive IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use. The indictment also described a pattern of violence and intimidation. Combs allegedly assaulted women by hitting, kicking, and dragging them. He threw objects at them and threatened them with violence if they tried to leave or resist. He used his security staff and employees to monitor the women's movements and prevent them from escaping. According to prosecutors, Combs kept videos of the sexual encounters as a form of collateral to ensure the victim's silence. The charges carried severe penalties. Racketeering conspiracy alone could result in a sentence of up to 20 years in prison. Sex trafficking carried a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years and a maximum of life imprisonment. If convicted on all counts, Combs faced the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. After his arrest, Combs pleaded not guilty to all charges. His legal team, led by prominent defense attorney Mark Agnifilo, argued that the government's case was based on consensual adult relationships and that prosecutors were criminalizing his lifestyle. They claimed that the women involved participated willingly and that any payments made were gifts, not compensation for illegal acts. They also argued that the videos and other evidence had been taken out of context. Combs was denied bail twice. Prosecutors argued that he posed a danger to the community and a flight risk, citing his wealth, access to private jets, and history of witness intimidation. They presented evidence that Combs had contacted witnesses and attempted to influence their testimony. The judge agreed and ordered him held without bail at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, a federal jail known for its harsh conditions. While Combs awaited trial, his legal troubles multiplied. Attorney Tony Busby, a high-profile lawyer based in Houston, announced that he was representing more than 120 individuals who alleged that Combs had sexually abused them. Some of these individuals claimed they were minors at the time of the abuse. The allegations spanned several decades and included incidents at parties, auditions, and private residences. Busby stated that he intended to file individual lawsuits on behalf of his clients and that he expected more victims to come forward. The revelations sent shockwaves through Hollywood and the music industry. People began asking uncomfortable questions. Who else knew about Combs' alleged behavior? Which celebrities, executives, and associates had attended his parties and turned a blind eye? Were there others who participated in or facilitated the abuse? The scandal threatened to implicate a wider network of powerful individuals who had benefited from their association with Combs. The federal trial began in the spring of 2025. Because federal rules prohibit cameras in criminal courtrooms, the public had to rely on courtroom sketches, written reports from journalists, and official transcripts. The trial lasted several weeks and featured testimony from multiple witnesses, including women who said they had been victimized by Combs. One witness identified in court only as Jane Doe. One testified that she met Combs at a music industry event in 2009. She said he invited her to what she thought was a professional meeting at a hotel. Instead, she alleged she was drugged and forced to participate in sexual acts with multiple men while Combs watched and filmed. She described feeling trapped and terrified, unable to leave, because Combs' security personnel blocked the exits. She said she never reported the incident to police because she feared Combs would ruin her career, and she doubted anyone would believe her. Another witness, a former employee of Bad Boy Records, testified that he was instructed to arrange travel and accommodations for women flown in for the freak-offs. He said he was told to stock hotel rooms with drugs, alcohol, and baby oil. He described receiving detailed instructions from Combs about which women to invite and how to ensure they did not leave until the events were over. He stated that he felt uncomfortable with what he was asked to do, but feared losing his job if he refused. Prosecutors presented video evidence, including the hotel surveillance footage of Combs assaulting Cassie Ventura. They also introduced text messages in which Combs appeared to threaten witnesses and offered money in exchange for their silence. Financial records showed payments to women who had signed non-disclosure agreements. Phone records demonstrated that Combs had contacted potential witnesses shortly before they were scheduled to testify. The defense team argued that the government was trying to criminalize consensual adult behavior. They called witnesses who testified that the women who attended the parties did so willingly and that Combs treated them with respect. They pointed out inconsistencies in the testimony of some of the alleged victims. They argued that the video of the assault on Cassie Ventura showed a domestic dispute, not evidence of sex trafficking. They questioned the credibility of witnesses who had accepted financial settlements from Combs before cooperating with prosecutors. In July 2025, after days of deliberation, the jury returned a split verdict. They found Combs not guilty of the most serious charges: racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. However, they found him guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. The verdict suggested that the jury believed Combs had used interstate travel to facilitate illegal sexual activity, but was not convinced that he had led a criminal enterprise or engaged in sex trafficking as defined by federal law. The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read. Combs showed little emotion. His legal team immediately announced plans to appeal. Prosecutors, while disappointed that they had not secured convictions on all counts, stated that the guilty verdicts represented a measure of accountability. In October 2025, the judge sentenced Combs to approximately 50 months in federal prison and ordered him to pay a fine of $500,000. During the sentencing hearing, both sides presented arguments about the appropriate punishment. Prosecutors asked for a lengthy sentence, arguing that Combs had used his wealth and influence to exploit vulnerable women and obstruct justice. The defense requested a sentence of probation or home confinement, arguing that the offenses of which Combs was convicted were relatively minor and that he had no prior criminal record. The judge, in delivering the sentence, stated that while the jury had acquitted Combs of the most serious charges, the convictions on the transportation counts reflected serious criminal conduct. The judge emphasized that wealth and power do not place anyone above the law. The judge noted that Combs had shown little remorse and had continued to attempt to influence witnesses even after his arrest. The sentence, the judge said, was intended to hold Combs accountable and to send a message that such behavior would not be tolerated. As of December 2025, the case is not over. Combs' attorneys have filed an appeal arguing that the trial judge made errors in allowing certain evidence and in the sentencing calculation. They are requesting that the appellate court either overturn the convictions or reduce the sentence. They have also filed a motion for Combs to be released on bail pending appeal, which is currently under consideration. Public reaction to this verdict has been mixed. Some people believe that the sentence is too lenient given the severity of the allegations and the number of women who came forward. They argue that Combs essentially got away with years of abuse because the jury did not convict him on the trafficking charges. Others view the convictions as a rare victory in a system where wealthy and powerful men often escape accountability. They point out that even a conviction on lesser charges represents progress in cases involving sexual violence. The question of how many victims remain silent continues to haunt this case. The 120 individuals represented by Tony Busby are only those who have chosen to come forward. How many others suffered in silence, too afraid or too ashamed to speak out? How many incidents occurred that will never be investigated or prosecuted? These are questions that may never be fully answered. Sean "Diddy" Combs was not convicted on the most serious charges brought against him, but his legacy has been irrevocably damaged. The man who once represented success and aspiration in the music industry is now a convicted felon serving time in federal prison. His business empire has crumbled, with former partners distancing themselves and endorsement deals cancelled. The parties that once made him the center of the entertainment world are now evidence in a criminal case. In the world of celebrity, the truth is not always visible, but sometimes it finds its way into a courtroom. This case reminds us that no amount of fame or fortune should shield someone from accountability. It also reminds us that survivors of abuse deserve to be heard, believed, and supported, regardless of how much time has passed or how powerful their abuser may be. Justice may be imperfect, but it remains the cornerstone of a society that values human dignity and the rule of law. What do you think about this case? Share your thoughts in the comments based on the facts presented. And if you want to stay updated on this case and explore more mysterious and chilling true crime stories, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching.